Good evening, all of you. We'll be starting shortly.
Good afternoon to you.
Yep.
I'm well, thank
How are
you.
you, Grace?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mom.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kofi.
Yeah, I hope you are
Farid.
good.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Farida, I've made you the co-host as usual.
No, ma'am, that's okay. I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening, ma'am. Wasn't here.
Yeah, good evening, Vasant. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Hope you are good too.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. I don't have a class tomorrow morning, so I'm so happy. It'll be a bit relaxed of a Saturday.
That's nice.
Yep. Yeah, you people have got a 5-day a week.
Yes, but sometimes
Yeah.
a 6 day.
Okay, Farida has got 24/7 work. So Farida has no 5-day.
I do just once a week, but it's not fixed as in Saturday or Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, I can be home Monday, so it depends on the level of work we have.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's but it's not a 5-day a week. It's a 6-day a week.
yes.
Yeah, it's the same for us. It's 6-day a week. Though our Saturdays are non-teaching Saturdays, so otherwise, like it's the university is on. Uh, just like 6 people. We'll wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start. We've just got 6 people here. So just wait for 2 more minutes and then we can start. All right, so we can start now. We've got more than 12 people. So, right. Today, I will be talking about block 4 of your syllabus, which is basically about the international trade, about international institutions. So, I will be starting off with the international institutions today first, and then I'll come to the balance of payment, and then lastly, I'll come to foreign trade of vis-a-vis India. That what policy did we follow regarding foreign trade? So for this part, like of course there'll be parts of lecture. So this part we'll be talking about the role of IMF and World Bank. We'll discuss the functioning of of these two institutions, and we'll discuss the concept of balance of payment. These 3 things we will be doing. So, starting off with International Monetary Fund. Now, what is International Monetary Fund, IMF? It's an organization that was formed in the year 1945. It was under the Bretton Woods Agreement. After the Second World War, the countries from Europe and America, they got together, and they started a dialogue so as to have certain organizations which would help the countries to rebuild their economies, and it would also to help the countries which were recently like independent, or where the European colonists knew that they would be leaving these countries soon. So they were, yes, so they were making those mm, like they started off with a dialogue there that how to go about rebuilding the entire world economy. And of course, there were two schools of thought. One was from Europe, and the other school of thought was from America. And there were a lot of negotiations that took place, that how the entire system should look like. Uh, I don't know how many of you have heard about the economist John Maynard Keynes. Keynes was an Englishman, and somebody who is very much responsible for the concept, or the entire branch of economics called the macroeconomics. And he is the person, like we study Keynesian theory, and the entire macroeconomics concept has been initiated and started by Keynes, and he was the one who developed it, and later on people added to what his like what he said. And then of course there were a lot of criticisms and counter criticisms, but that he was the person. So he was representing Europe, and then the US Federal Reserve Governor at that time, he was representing America, and that is how it got. And yes, IMF was formed. And so what is the mandate of IMF, that you require IMF? So it says that to promote cooperation among the members in monetary matters and provide a forum for discussion to maintain cordial relationships. So basically it is talking about monetary matters, and it is also talking about cordial relations. So somewhere, uh, though the name is IMF, we expect it to be purely a monetary organization which deals with money and things, but it also talked about cordial relationships, because of course the backdrop of IMF and World Bank are the two wars. So which showed that the countries were like the relationships were not very good, and there was this a whole divide in the world as far as political ideologies were concerned. So yeah, so that was there. The second mandate was to smoothen the process so that international trade is fostered, employment levels increase, real income grows, and productive resources accumulate for the member countries. So basically, we are talking about international trade, because that is the main work that IMF does now. It helps the countries to correct their balance of payment position. Um, of course, employment, you have to look at it, because if the countries do not have employment levels, then it will not help them to like like a country cannot have a jobless growth. So it's very important that you increase employment. When we talk about real income, basically we are talking about the purchasing power of the people, that how much can money buy for them. So it's not about the nominal income, but it's more about always about the real income, because nominal income can be very very high, and your inflation rates can be very very high. So basically it turns out to be that your real income is very low. So like right now what is happening in Pakistan, if you look at Pakistan, has got a inflation rate of 28%. Now that's like unbelievable rate of inflation there. And a few years back, Venezuela had it. Sri Lanka went through a very very bad phase. Yesterday, Vasant was talking about Sri Lanka. So yes, a lot of African countries are facing very high rate of inflation right now. So especially after COVID. So yes, so all these things were a part of the mandate of International Monetary Fund. Then to incentivize orderly exchange rate arrangements and its stability, and see to it that the members don't indulge in competitive devaluation. Yesterday we were discussing about China, and most of you were of the view that, of course, China is there out there to like when we were talking about the lesser evil. Most of you picked up, not most of you, everybody picked up America. Though like both are evils, but you said that America was a lesser evil because you could believe them, and yeah, they are much more fair in their dealings as compared to China, because China has got a very underhand way of dealing with people or countries. Now, this entire why did I bring that the Chinese thing here is because uh, competitive devaluation we are talking about. So they are saying that you need to have a very orderly exchange rate system. Mm, when we talk about orderly exchange rate systems agreements, what we are basically trying to say is that the exchange rate of the countries have to be very stable. Right now, all the countries around the world, they have got a floating exchange rate system. Floating exchange rate system means that which is dynamic, which keeps on changing as per the demand and supply of your currency. So it's fluctuating, and it's not pegged or it's not fixed. When IMF was formed at that time, the floating exchange rate system was not there. It was more of a pegged exchange rate system. That means your currency was pegged to some other currency. Generally, it was dollar against US dollar, against which your currency was pegged, or like that was the standard. That 1 rupee, like your $1 is much of rupees. Like if you're talking about India, how much rupee have you to pay for buying $1. Uh, Later on, like right now, it's more of a flexible thing. And the devaluation thing which they are talking about is wherein China comes in, because China has uh, constantly devalued its currency in the global market so as to increase its exports. So it has never it has never been a very competitive it has not been a good competitor. Like it has always used these measures whereby it breaks the rules, and it tries to uh, mm, it tries to manipulate the market there. So yeah, so that devaluation we are talking about. Then they talk about help the member countries develop a system of payments to facilitate multilateral transactions and to remove transactions on foreign exchange which hampers trade. Uh, we were talking about GATT the other day, General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, and I said that it was again something that it was an offshoot of the Bretton Woods Agreement, and there, though it was not a statutory body at that time, but yes, it was a platform for multilateral transactions taking place, and uh, 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 a lot of multilateral or multi-nation agreements came up. The other day I was mentioning some names, like you had EEC, European Economic Community, which is now known as European Union. You have got SAFTA, you have got NAFTA. In Africa, you have got a lot of multilateral trade agreements. There are multilateral groups. I was talking about ECOWAS the other day. Then you have got South Africa. Uh, uh, you have got, sorry, an African Union. You have got an African Union, and then um you people have to remind me of the other multilateral forums that you people have. Like right now, the two things that are coming is ECOWAS and African Union. Apart from there are others as well, wherein you like 1955 there was this agreement that took place with African nations. Okay, fine. Forgetting the name of in 1955 there was this agreement that took place. There have, like if you read, you'll find those countries coming together and forming groups. BRICS is one in recent times where South Africa plays a major role. And yes, so that was there. Then we talk about the fifth mandate of IMF is to become a vehicle through which members can get over difficult times in terms of payment problems by assessing its resources so that they don't have to resort to policies which are further damaging. This is one thing which the IMF has been like currently. This is what IMF by that it is it helps countries to come out of their balance of payment crisis. So a lot of countries face a balance of payment crisis basically when you don't have enough foreign exchange to to support your foreign trade or to help in your import. So that is what your like that is when IMF comes in, and it provides you with the sufficient foreign exchange. B, it helps you to formulate policies so that you manage your trade much better, and you are in a position where you do not again fall into that crisis. So yes, those are that is what basically it is being known by. So, and the last, if I talk about, then you we have this at the, we have mm, I was just looking for because a lot of voices coming. Okay. Yeah, so this is, and the last is to lessen the trauma of the member countries by shortening the time and degree of disequilibrium in balance of payment. So these two mandates are related to each other, where we are saying that if you've got a balance of payment issue, then you try to help the country and provide them with sufficient loans so that they can take care of the disequilibrium that is there. And like in case of Sri Lanka, IMF stepped in and it has helped them. Though in Sri Lanka the situations got very bad because people were out in the streets, and they took some very insane decisions. The government took some very insane decisions because of which there was a lot of unrest in the country, and then the president was charged with huge corruption. His brother, the prime minister, was again charged with huge corruption. So by the time IMF stepped in, the situation had gone very bad. In Pakistan, what is happening right now? If these are the two neighboring countries of India, and we keep a close tab on their economies because very important for us. So in Pakistan. Again, the political situation is not very stable because their ex prime minister, Mr. Imran Khan, has been saying that it has been a coup against him, a military coup where the military transpired against him and got him removed from the post of the prime minister. But the IMF came in very IMF came in and at a very opportune time, and they have been trying to solve the issue. So it's not as bad as in Pakistan as it was in Sri Lanka. So now we talk about the functions of the IMF. If that what does it do? So we say that it first is that it monitors the economies, the member of the obviously of the member countries, and they see that whether the objectives are being fulfilled or not. So that is something that they do. Then they do direct lending to the member countries so as to overcome the balance of payments crisis that they have. Then they also help the low income countries to like they link them with major donors, external donor agencies, and sources of funds. Now yesterday while we were discussing, um, so I think so it was who was it? I suppose today he has not joined. The gentleman from Uganda, I think so, is not here today. Do we have anybody from Uganda? Like yesterday, he was talking. There was I forgot his name. Who was talking to us about Uganda and how how corruption is there in Uganda, and people the politicians have been ruining the country and things. So this is where what happens is that when you have got a crisis and you go to IMF, and what IMF does is that it it doesn't make you work hard for it. It brings together the donor agencies and the various sources of funds, so that the country can fight that the crisis that they have. Now what happens is, if your political system is weak or if your institutions are weak, then you start the politicians, they start misusing that, and that has been happening in a lot of African countries. It has been happening a lot in the Latin American countries. In Asian countries, if I'm talking about, it has not been there much, because in most of the Asian countries, you have got, of course, like Pakistan has always been charged of this corruption, because they get a lot of funds from external sources, external agencies, and it has been said that the prime ministers of Pakistan have apportioned a lot of amount of money from these agencies. In India, so far we have not had a prime minister who has been charged of any such scale of corruption. There has been issues of corruption, of course. There has been issues of governments being corrupt, and where like you there have been ministers who have been accused of corruption, or they have gone behind the bars because of corruptions. But if I'm talking about the prime minister, then no prime minister of India has ever been charged of corruption of this sort, where they have apportioned the money that they have received from the external agencies. So, but this I have heard. Like, I've got a few students who are from Ghana, students from I was talking to a student, I suppose, from Tanzania, who was telling me something similar, like this happening. Uh, and my other student is from Zambia, if I'm not mistaken. Grace, you people have had a new leader recently. Uh, right. Uh, I think so. It was he's a Zambian. I'm getting confused. Is he from Ghana or is he from Zambia? They have had a new ruler and they were very enthusiastic about it, but has not been doing good. I suppose Zambia also has got a new prime minister. I suppose somebody who came in, prime minister or president, like who came in a year or 2 year back. Grace, if you can hear me. Mm. Let me go back to my PPT. So they keep a constant monitoring of the member countries' well-being, and which helps the donors and financial markets to properly gauge the economies, that if they should be investing in that country or not. Because if the financial matters are not handled properly, then of course the donor agencies don't like getting involved. Uh, then it also provides a forum for consultations and international coordination. So generally, when we are talking about these coordinations, these are related to exchange rates, so that there is a very fair play there. And as we were talking earlier, that there should not be any um, uh, deliberate devaluation of the currencies. And then comes SDR, special drawing rights. So they provide international liquidity through special drawing rights. Now, anybody here who knows what an SDR is? If somebody can help me with SDRs, that what are SDRs, special drawing rights? Anybody? I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So somebody help me with SDRs, special drawing rights. Anybody knows what SDRs are?
Yes, you are audible now.
No, I am audible. Okay, it was Rion who is from Uganda. Yesterday he was talking about. All right. Anybody who knows what SDRs are, special drawing rights? No? Okay. So let me tell you what special drawing rights are. Uh, Now, special drawing rights, it's an international reserve asset. The full form of SDR is special drawing rights. So, special drawing rights, it's an international reserve asset, and like it is basically valued through a basket of 5 currencies. So you've got the US dollar, you've got the euro, you've got the Chinese renminbi, you've got the Japanese yen, and the British pound sterling. So these 5 currencies make the basket, and there is there's a value associated to SDR which varies from country to country because every country doesn't have the same SDR, so special drawing rights. So it is there, and it's an international reserve asset. So it's just when you have those emergencies or stuff, then only you use your SDR. So if I can just play this for you, I don't know. Okay, so it takes you. Is this screen visible of IMF to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to play this short video.
Special drawing rights, or SDRs, play an important role in providing liquidity to the global economic system. SDRs were created by the IMF in 1969 to supplement the official reserves of its member countries. SDRs aren't a currency, and they're not claims on the IMF, but they are an international reserve asset that can be converted into reserve currencies with the help of other member countries. This way, IMF members have access to unconditional liquidity. SDRs are normally distributed among members through a process called a general allocation, a decision that requires approval by the IMF Board of Governors with at least 85% of the total voting power. There have been 4 so far in the history of the IMF. In a general allocation, the IMF distributes SDRs to member countries in proportion to their quota shares at the IMF, reflecting their relative economic standing in the world economy. Only certain parties can hold SDRs: the IMF, its member countries, and certain prescribed holders, such as regional central banks, intergovernmental monetary institutions, and some development banks. The value of the SDR is updated daily and defined by a basket of major currencies used in the world's most important trading and financial systems: the US dollar, the euro, the Chinese renminbi, the Japanese yen, and the UK pound sterling. The SDR's interest rate is adjusted weekly based on the short-term interest rate of government securities of the currencies in the SDR basket. How do SDRs help provide liquidity to the global economic system? Members can exchange SDRs for freely usable currencies held by other members. This brings down their SDR holdings, but provides them with the currency to either help meet balance of payment needs or add to their own reserves. Members can also use their SDRs to pay for IMF loans or quota increases. Members with strong external positions sometimes use their SDR holdings to contribute to the financing of low-income countries by lending to the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust. Members can hold on to their allocated SDRs to increase their international reserve buffer. They earn interest on their holdings of SDRs and pay interest on their cumulative allocations at the same SDR interest rate. This means that the interest earned and charged cancel out so long as SDR holdings are equal to their allocated SDRs. So, holding on to the allocation itself has no cost for the members. If a member exchanges its SDRs for freely usable currencies, its SDR holdings and the interest earned on those holdings will fall. If the holding falls below the cumulative allocation, the member has to pay interest on the shortfall. Likewise, if a member provides freely usable currencies in exchange for extra SDRs, it gets paid interest on the surplus of SDR holdings. Most exchanges of SDRs for currency take place through voluntary trading arrangements, or VTAs. Under these arrangements, facilitated by the IMF, members volunteer to buy or sell SDRs. In the rare and unlikely event that a transaction doesn't go through a VTA, the IMF can call on members with strong external positions to buy SDRs from members with a balance of payment need. The IMF helps members make the best use of their SDRs by providing advice on macroeconomic policy, as well as transparency and accountability measures. The IMF's guiding principle is that any use of SDRs should be consistent with macroeconomic sustainability, but it also provides space for a response for crises, such as the pandemic. The use of SDRs should not delay changes to macroeconomic policies, reforms, or debt restructurings where needed. In August 2021, the IMF's Board of Governors adopted the largest ever general allocation of SDRs, equivalent to $650 billion. This allocation among 190 member countries was adopted to help meet the long-term global need to supplement reserve assets. Another important objective was to help build confidence and send a powerful signal of a cooperative, multilateral response to the COVID-19 crisis, including providing more scope for spending on crisis response in liquidity-constrained emerging market and developing economies. Learn more about SDRs at imf.org/.
So that was the video that from obviously from the IMF website, where we learned that what SDRs are, and very, very important. It's a very important instrument as far as foreign trade is concerned. So we keep a track of this, and it helps us to understand global trade much, much better, right? So okay. Just a second. All right. Now we were talking about the functions. In between, we talked about the SDR because uh, uh, providing SDR is also a function of the IMF. Now, IMF also engages in training and capacity building. So, especially in countries of like the developing countries, like your and my country, they provide a lot of training and capacity building is being done, so that they help these developing countries to formulate, or like to have their own uh, systems, strong financial systems, so that they can develop that. And then lastly, if we are talking about the functions, lastly, it talks about research areas. It undertakes research areas, and where it basically it's more of an advice that they are giving. And these reports, or these researches by the IMF, they are disseminated through these there are policy papers, there are reports, there are documents, there are working papers, articles in newspaper, articles in journals and research journals, academic journals. So yes, so through that you can come to know that what IMF is looking at. Now, the policy statements, if we are looking, look, the policy statements are different from it differs from period to period. So I took the most recent one, and here is the statement. It's a message from the managing director of IMF. And I hope this screen of IMF is visible to everybody.
Yes, ma.
Okay, thank you. So here's the message which says that, dear reader, the global economy is facing its biggest test since World War II. Over the past year, the ongoing pandemic has continued to exact an enormous health and socio-economic toll, affecting lives and livelihoods everywhere. In the midst of the nascent recovery, the world is facing a second unprecedented shock: Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Millions of refugees have fled the fighting, millions more remain internally displaced. The economic consequences continue to reverberate. Soaring food and energy prices and broader inflation are hitting the most vulnerable the hardest, just as high debt and tightening global financial conditions make it even more difficult for governments to support them. In addition, there is a sharply increased risk of the world fragmenting into geopolitical and economic blocs that could reverse decades of gains in living standards. And there is no pause button on the climate crisis while we deal with these other crises. The IMF is working to help our members address these challenges and keep moving forward on an increasingly difficult road to recovery. Last year, our membership approved a historic $650 billion allocation of the IMF's special drawing rights to strengthen countries' reserves, helping to provide much needed liquidity support to countries worldwide. Building on this achievement, we began the process of reforming our financing support, starting with efforts to boost the size of our concessional lending for low income countries. This year, our members also agreed to launch the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, our first facility providing long term affordable financing to help our more vulnerable members build resilience against climate shocks and future pandemics. Since the start of the pandemic, the IMF has approved $258 billion in new financing to 93 countries. We are now extending that support to those most heavily affected by the latest set of shocks. This annual report emphasizes the work of the IMF's executive board, whose guidance and oversight are essential. It also highlights the real time advice, capacity building, and support the fund has provided to our members. Working together is the only way we can successfully address the challenges we face. Our member countries can count on us to nurture collective action for a strong and inclusive economy. Kristalina Georgieva, the managing director of IMF. This is when the annual report was released. You can go to the website of IMF, and if you want, you can always read the entire report. You can download the report in there are various languages in which it is available. So whichever you want, you can always download and read the report of IMF. So that is one thing that they have been doing. Now, coming back, so that is basically what the statement tells us is that IMF is very seriously looking at rebuilding the economy, especially after the pandemic, because this was a very unprecedented thing to happen. People were not like, when it comes to a financial crisis, you have got certain signals coming out from the countries that something is happening, and a lot of countries take precautionary measures to help themselves come out of that crisis. But when it comes to a calamity like the pandemic, nobody was prepared for it. Nobody like the because nobody expected it. So because you never nobody knew what it was. When in December 2019, the first cases started coming in, uh, most of the countries did not take it very seriously. The WHO guidelines were not there, and it did not seem to be such a big thing. It was only by February of 2020 that the clock started ticking and things started getting worse. And Worldometer became the most talked about website and the most a visited website, because every day people were seeing that how many people are falling sick, how many are getting are losing their lives, and the situation became so worse. And then, of course, there were those lockdowns, and the economy coming to a standstill, the countries coming to a standstill. So a lot of African countries do not have the lockdown. Like India had a draconian lockdown, and we went for a lockdown in March, like March 2020, on 21st of March. Sorry, from 23rd of March 2020, there was the first phase of lockdown that started, and everything came to a standstill. A lot of African countries did not have it. China is still having a lockdown. So yes, that was odd. So we now come to the World Bank. That is, we come. Uh, you people have got anything so far to talk about your country's experience with IMF, which you are aware of, how things have been working? Like if you are aware that how much money your countries have taken from IMF, or what sort of help are they taking? If you're aware, kindly share your inputs. Uh, yes, kindly let us know that what sort of uh, insights you have about your country taking loans from IMF, or if you have read or heard about it. Uh, yes, nobody, nobody knows about IMF or your country taking loans from IMF. Nobody has heard or read about it in the newspapers, because if such loans are taken, and there's always news that comes out.
Yes, doctor. Like
Yep.
here in the area, there are a lot of news that I heard. The IMF will be forecasting the economy, and also will be demanding that our government should devalue our currency.
Hmm. So has Nigeria taken a lot of loans from IMF?
Yes, I think in the last previous years, Nigeria have been taking loan from IMF.
Okay. Anybody else who has got any insights of the loans from IMF? If you've got any insights, kindly share. Otherwise, we'll move to World Bank. That's the
Yeah,
next thing.
can I
Anybody who
just?
has got any? Yes, yes, Hassan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that at the moment, Pakistan is really struggling with the loans. Recently, there were officers who went to do what do you say, a sit-in with the authorities in Pakistan. But the latest news
Hmm.
is that it didn't go through well. They were not successful, and IMF officers, they returned without actually sanctioning anything to Pakistan.
Yes, very
Yeah.
true, because they have got a political instability going on, along with economic instability, and the all the the negotiations that were going on with IMF have they have resulted into a deadlock in that country. So yes, it has not been going very well. Though IMF has to step in, otherwise it'll be difficult for the Pakistani economy to prosper, or like not even prosper. Like right now, it's about the question of sustaining themselves. It'll be very very difficult, because every day the situation is getting bad. So yes, good,
Yes,
good.
and also they, to for IMF to intervene to help with the loans, they set out a set of conditions. So I think they were given like a list of 27 or 26 conditions to meet,
Yes, yes.
but
uh,
they didn't work on most of them.
Whenever IMF gives loan now, that has been a strong criticism, like from the Indian perspective, if I talk, because I can tell you the best from Indian perspective, that whenever we have taken loans from IMF, it has always been there has been a one section of economists and policymakers who have said that we are selling our soul to the to the capitalist world, because IMF gives you loan to tackle your external crisis, basically your balance of payment crisis. Now, when they give out give out that loan, of course they will be having a lot of conditions. One, because they want the money back. Two, because they are getting the money from the donor agencies, and the donor agencies have their own sets of rules and conditions. So generally, like whatever the number of conditions are, one is that they're looking for greater transparency. Yes, Suleiman. Suleiman, you need to switch off. Okay, right. So one is they require greater transparency from you. They do not want to hide your accounts. So that is one thing that they do not want. And another major factor of these conditions is that they want you to open up your trade much more. So they are looking for better trading partnership from these countries. Many a times they also ask for the natural resources, like trading in those terms. So a lot of countries face this issue that says as mines and stuff like that. So that becomes an issue. So what Vasant is talking about, yeah, with Pakistan, it has not been very fruitful so far. But of course, there is no other way. So there will be some negotiations that will take place. Let's see who blinks first, whether it's the IMF or the Pakistani officials and the politicians.
Yes, ma'am. A
Anybody?
lot that needs to be done.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
of course, it needs to be done.
hopefully we'll come to an
Right.
agreement, because we in the end, Pakistan is part of the world, is part of the economy somewhere. So, they have to prosper as well, sooner or
Uh,
later. Yeah.
yes, sooner or later, and
For the
because
greater good of all.
and it's like being between a wall and a like what it is somewhere, it is in between two very bad situations, because on one hand you have got this political and economic instability. On the other hand, you have got Afghanistan with its own set of problems and things going on. You have got China breathing down your neck because it wants greater passage through Pakistan, because that is how it has built itself to these African countries. The Russia-Ukraine war not helping the cause. So it is. It is in it's in a very very difficult position. And of course, with India, it has always had its our relations with Pakistan have never been very good. So yeah, let's see how it pans out. As you said, it's a part of the international community, so yes, you need to have a look at it, right? So let's talk about World Bank now. And okay, so World Bank is another agency that was formulated alongside of IMF as part of the Bretton Woods Agreement. And the task that was assigned to World Bank was to rebuild the countries which were affected by World War II. So that was the mandate that was given to the World Bank at that time. And it functions like a development financial institution and an investment bank. So it does both. It helps you in your developmental projects, it finances a lot of developmental projects, and it's also an investment bank, so it does that its share of investment as well. So if we are looking at the current roles of World Bank, so it's helping in food security, in climate change, in international development association, and World Bank data. These are the four things that it's there. Food security, so it is helping in fighting poverty in a very very big way. World Bank projects have been running all over the world. They are financing in huge numbers for the countries to come out of poverty. Uh, Poverty and hunger both. Hunger has been an issue, like if again, like hunger doesn't always means abject hunger. We see sites from Somalia where we find so many children who are malnourished, undernourished, and there is this problem of hunger there. Um we right now, many African countries, like I was reading the newspapers, and there have been a lot of news that because of the Ukraine war, there is a food crisis in a lot of African nations, and the world at large is helping them, and of course World Bank has stepped in and it's providing those things. So this is abject poverty and abject hunger that we are talking about. But then you also have, like, people have got food to eat, but is the nourishment level right? So if I talk from Indian perspective, we do not have abject poverty, we do not have abject hunger. That means we you won't find in India people go hungry because they don't have food. No, because there's abundance of food here, and there are mechanisms in place to ensure that everybody gets food. But the question in India now is of nourishment, that how much of nourishment are you getting? And there's a big number of children who are malnourished. There is a large number of feeding mothers who are malnourished, which ultimately has a negative impact on the labor force, because when your workforce is malnourished, when you have got kids who are malnourished, that means that entire talk of demographic dividend that we have been talking, and which we want to achieve, that gets hampered, because you have got a huge set of the population which is not nourished, which is not physically enabled to do the work. So yeah, so both these things are there. Like, the same is the case with Latin America, because in most of the Latin America, again, you won't find abject poverty or abject hunger, but there is this problem of malnourishment. So yeah, so we keep these are the two aspects that need to be looked at. Yes, Vasant, you are trying to say something?
Yes, I would like to add something, ma'am, because it's something that is happening in my country. I think it's happening in some parts of Africa as well. I don't have the
Mm,
names of the countries,
right.
but then there is this project that the World Bank is financing
Mm,
here in Mauritius. And
mm-hmm.
you remember I talked about inclusive education, about
Yes,
taking
yes,
everyone on
yes,
board, you know, in the
yes,
educational
yes,
path. So
yes.
this is the project that the World Bank is financing in Mauritius.
Okay.
And I'm also, yeah, I'm sure they're financing a project, uh, same project, same kind of project in other African countries as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
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 yeah,
yeah. So one of
yes,
their roles
because
is to, you know,
yeah, so
save
that
lives.
is when they're
Yeah.
talking about inclusion, they're talking about developmental goals, they are talking about how you
Yes.
yeah, how you mitigate these problems, because as I said, when people talk of food security, like in India, we have got in 2005 we came up with a Food Security Act, wherein it was said that like previously also, since the 70s, we have had a lot of food programs. Like, we have had a lot of programs where you had those food for work. So like in America, you have a food stamp, that you give a stamp, and you get food in return. So people are given like that. That's a welfare project. So in India, we had food for work programs, but it was never a statute, like it was never a right for you to get nourishment from, or to get food from the government. So it took us what the act came in the year 2005. We got our independence in the year 1947. So it took us more than 50 years to come up with an act, a Food Security Act, where it is now a person's right to go and ask the government for food. So under this scheme, people are given 35 kilograms of food free of cost. And they are like rice and wheat, which are the staples in India, in Indian food. These are the two staple food grains. So now they are being provided with very very cheap rate. It's like 1 rupee a kg wheat and 2 rupees a kg of rice that is being provided. So that is an act. Now this year, I don't know how many of you have again read this. United Nations has declared this year as uh, FAO and United Nations, they have declared this year as the year of millets. which is basically millets. I suppose everybody knows what millets is because Africa grows a lot of millet. India is the world #1 in terms of millet production, and millets are coarse grains. Something which is very traditional. Like these are very traditional crops that you have. However, with the advent of industrial revolution and with the advent of these movements, uh, wheat and paddy became the staple in most of the countries all over the world. And there has been a large number of studies which are showing that wheat and paddy are not nutritious. They are causing a lot of health problems. Like in India, wheat is a major reason for diabetes. So we have got a huge number of people who are diabetic, and wheat is one of the causes, because especially if we talk about northern India is a wheat eating region, and the incidence of diabetes is very high. So people are looking for crops or for things which are cheap, which are nutritious. So millets have come in there, and World Bank is assisting in a lot of projects for millet growings. It's doing the same in Africa as well, because they are saying that, because millets require less rainfall, it requires less care. So those are like harsh weather crops. They are very wholesome in nature. They are the traditional crops, and they are very highly nutritious. So if somebody is following these diets, if you're following diets, so in a lot of diets they say that you can't take wheat, you can't take rice, but you can take these coarse grains. So a lot of these keto diets that we are reading so much about nowadays, intermittent fasting, keto diets, there you have got these coarse grains, and World Bank has been financing a lot of these things, especially in building the seed banks for these things. So that is about food security that we are talking about. Then comes in your climate change. Now, climate change again is an issue with it's a global issue which needs to be catered to, which needs to be talked about, because currently, again, it is about the developed countries versus the developing countries. The developed countries are asking us not to like pollute, and not to uh, go for massive industrialization. They are asking us not to use a lot of vehicles. They're asking us to use more of renewable energy. These are all money costing things. They are expensive. So like if you go through the declaration of COPA 2023, or not 2023, sorry, COPA 2022 Glasgow, it was held at Glasgow. And even before that, so the countries, like we have made a commitment of reducing carbon emissions by 2.5% by 2030. That is the commitment that we have made. uh, but we require funds for that. We require funds for financing these things. And when I say we, means all of us, all the countries that here we are participating. Now, COPA says, or these international these meetings, in this it is being said that the developed countries should be paying the developing countries for taking these initiations, or to come out with technology, or to adopt technologies which are climate friendly. uh, but the developed countries are not giving those funds. The developed countries are not providing sufficient amount of funds to the developing countries. They are there is a shortfall in that. And the World Bank has been doing a lot of work in the field of climate change, and they are financing a lot of projects, especially when it comes to your renewable energy, like solar panels, your wind energy, these hydel energy. These projects are being funded by World Bank. You'll find a lot of places it's written that it's a World Bank sponsored project. So under this, these things are happening. Like in India, uh, we have got a huge kitchens out there, community kitchens, which have got solar panels, and a lot of the funding has come from World Bank for that. Yeah, so there are so many instances where it's working for climate change, and then we have got this International Development Association again, where it gives funds for development. So a lot of funds are coming from World Bank. There are a lot of World Bank funded projects, like if we are talking about cleaning the cities, we are talking about building these drainage systems. A lot of money is coming there, and then of course with the World Bank data. Now this is a huge uh, step that they have. Now I've got a question for all of you. uh, there's very less participation today, and I've been speaking a lot. I've been speaking for the past 1 hour. uh, do you think developed countries have used data as a tool of discrimination? I'm repeating my question. Do you think the developed countries have used data as a tool for discrimination?
You mean to talk about you mean the developed nations?
Yeah, the developed nations are using it to exploit the developing countries.
I think I could say yeah, partly yes.
Okay. Why partly
Yeah,
and not why wholly?
because you can't really accuse them like it's 100% that they yeah. So in a way, there is there also their personal benefits. Talking a geopolitical view, they
Okay.
have to look after their own benefit. That's why they know where to target. They know all the movements because if any country is benefiting from the World Bank in any way, they have to make their data public about the population, the
Hmm.
how things are, the culture and everything, and all the developed nations they have, and when someone is like you say power,
Hmm.
like it is known, power corrupts.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
anyone any big country, developed nations who has a like a note in mind, let's say in between inverted commas, so they would
Hmm.
like to take advantage and then
Hmm.
squeeze out the juice from the developing nations for their own benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let me hear a few more, and then I'll give my opinion on that. I want to take a break. So yes, Grace, go ahead.
I think so too. They've always want to be dominant in processes, in being the first to innovate, in 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 just doing things that yield greatness. So yes, they've used, especially in research. Look at
Hmm.
how there was there was speculation about which one was the best COVID vaccine. Others
Hmm.
felt the one being given in the United States was the ideal one, that the third countries were being given, let's say, AstraZeneca, that,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
whether it was just, malice, but
Hmm.
in research, in innovation, there's they've shown there's clearly discrimination. They'll give what they want the third world countries uh, to know, or
Hmm.
they'll limit us in a way. So
Okay.
I do believe it's the discrimination is there.
Great. Thank you, Grace. Who next? Who next? Today, Khamis is not talking. Khamis, you're busy?
Not really. I'm feeling some kind of headache. That's why.
Okay. All right. Take rest.
Yeah.
Take rest.
All right.
Uh, all right. Anybody else who would like to take this issue? Masumba, you are very quiet nowadays.
I speak when I have something to say, but on this particular topic, I think I would like to listen more.
Okay. I hope you are listening.
Yes, I am.
Uh, okay, great, great. Uh, anybody else who would like to speak? Because yes, Grace made a very strong statement there. Vasant is a bit hesitant, but of course he made his statement. Anybody else? Okay. Um,
Yeah, I like to be very careful, ma'am, because I don't like to be too bold because things can be offensive sometimes. So I weigh my
uh,
words. I try to
uh,
weigh
the-
my words.
yep. But, there's no American over here, so we can always badmouth America.
Yeah, I was gonna add, recently lithium has been found
In India.
in Kashmir.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
now they are making how you say it. The Americans they wasted no time into sending their research analysts to
Yes.
India to talk
Yes.
about the lithium. So, oh my God, yeah, they're
Uh,
like hungry lions waiting for their prey. Just waiting for the right opportunity.
right.
Yeah.
I suppose everybody knows about clouds. These data clouds. Everybody, I suppose, knows about them.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, who owns these data clouds? There are four companies in the world which have these data clouds. And all these data clouds are mainly parked in Alaska. So I was talking to somebody who is from IIT, which is the most premier institution in India. And while I was speaking, we got talking about how this discrimination happens. And I would second to what Grace said, that yes, they have been using this as a tool for discrimination. Um, all these four companies, they have got. The gentleman told me that each company is having those many number of computers which can fill up 500 football grounds each. So just imagine the amount of area that they have taken, and those are computers. So whenever you are there, like you are doing anything online, generally four copies of it gets made and it gets saved there, and then those algorithms are working. And now everything is a, like we were talking the other day, we were talking about chat GPT and we were talking about artificial intelligence. Now these things, what is happening is that the developed nations, mainly America, have been using these technologies to create a divide between the countries, between the haves and the have nots. So they have been sharing these technologies with all the developed countries, and the so-called third countries, they are always given the leftovers. So whenever it comes to, especially to technology, they are given that mostly the outdated technology goes to these countries. And what World Bank has done is that World Bank is making a lot of data public. So you go to the World's Bank website and you get a lot of data which is otherwise not there. So if you have to make a study, like in academia, we are doing a lot of research work where we require a lot of data. Now we are, most of the time we are not sponsored, so it's very difficult for us to buy data. We look for the free sources, so mainly it's the government sources from which we are looking for data. But then there are the government does not publish each and every data. There are a lot of data which is not around. You can go to the World's Bank website and you can get a lot of data, especially when we are doing our academic researches. We get a lot of data there. Now coming to the African countries, most of the, like I don't know, like Grace is from Zambia, so she can like guide me better, because like I had a student last term, and he was a master's student and he was writing his dissertation under me. I was his supervisor, and we were working on financial inclusion in Zambia. And uh, the Central Bank of Zambia doesn't provide a lot of data. There's like in India, the Reserve Bank of India is a data. It's a data bank. You get loads and loads of data, not only on banks, but you get a lot of data on the economy, the Indian economy, the state economy. So you get a lot of data there. Now, when I visited Zambia's central bank's website, and I found that data is not there. And I started talking to him, and I started talking to other African students, and they said that one, they lack the skill to collect the data, because that level of expertise is not there, because of there are so many other conditions, like so many reasons for it. Secondly, the technology is missing. So they were saying that for you, it's very, because your technology is much advanced here, so it's easy for you to capture the data and to present it, whereas there it's much more expensive, because we don't have those sort of resources. And that is which makes it so much more evident that how data is being used, and technology is being used to create this divide there. And the World Bank is doing good, though World Bank is also, like, of course, it cannot work without America's diktat. So it does a lot of things which America asks it to do, but yep, the situations are not like right now. If we are looking at the situation there, it's like things are not uh, as bad like previously. It's getting a bit better now as compared to what it was earlier, right? So fine. So these are the roles of World Bank. Coming back to my PPT, and so these are the partner institutions of World Bank. There are 5 partner institutions of World Bank. You've got International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is known as IBRD. Then you've got the International Development Association, which we just looked at, IDA. Then you've got the International Finance Corporation, which is IFC. You've got the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, which is in short known as MIGA. And then you've got the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, which is basically a dispute mitigation platform, ICSID, known as. So you've got the Reconstruction and Development Banks. So this is basically which is looking after the first two are basically looking after the developmental works, where we were talking about food security, climate change, these things. Then you've got the International Finance Corporation, which is and the third and the fourth one are about the investment. So here, when we talked about it functions like a development financial institution and an investment bank. So the first two are development banks, and the third and the fourth are financial institutions. The fifth one is it's basically an investment dispute settlement center. Uh, now we come to like we are changing gears, and we are moving to balance of payments position. Any doubts so far? Anything that you people have not understood? You want to speak about it? You want to let know? So just if you've got any questions to ask, if you've got any comments to make, because this is the last session that I am having with you people. So anything that you want a better understanding of?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Masumba.
Yes, I wanted to ask something related to the assignment. Now,
Okay.
I
Yep.
noticed
Go
there's a
ahead.
question number 4 on the assignment is saying describe the key players in the agriculture sector and discuss the role and importance of agriculture marketing. Now, describe the key players in the agriculture sector. Which sector are you asking us to describe? The Indian sector or our local sector?
It's because it's from the Indian perspective. So the question is basically from the Indian perspective, it is there that you have to for the Indian students, we ask them to describe the key players of the Indian agriculture market and the Indian agriculture sector. With you people, uh, it's so difficult to answer that because uh, I don't know who will be evaluating your assignments. Like, because if it's me who is evaluating the assignments, I'll consider the African answers as well, like your local things as well, because that is how you have understood it. But uh, if I can just, I'll do one thing. Let me drop a message to Dr. Smriti Gargav and just put in this thing to her that. Okay, so I have dropped a message for Dr. Smriti, and whenever she sees that, if she joins us in between, because she has been joining and she wrote a message as well, I suppose, where she asked you people to write your names for attendance purpose. So if she joins us again, then uh, we can ask her, or otherwise I'll ask her to drop a message. So I've asked her to drop a message in the students like your WhatsApp group, because she's a part there. So she can drop in a message there and ask sort it out. And if she joins here, we'll surely ask her. And if you see her, because if I am there in the in the presentation mode, then I won't be able to see her. So if she joins with the same handle like EVA MBA OL. So if she joins it with that, then you can ask her. Otherwise, I'll ask. But for sure, you'll get an answer. Do not worry about that, Masumba. You'll get a answer to that. When is your last date for submitting your assignments?
I think it's 20th of April.
Okay, you've got time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, for sure, I'll ask her to drop a message for you people.
Yeah, this is all not a thank you. I was worried.
Do not be worried. Do not be worried. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Okay. Nobody wants to talk. Let Tanima talk. So we will now talk about balance of payment. So balance of payment is what? Balance of payment is basically a summary statement of a country's foreign trade. So basically, you're talking about all the trade related and international payments related transactions that you have So it's a summary statement about that. And so you are talking about exports, you're talking about imports, you're talking about all the loans that you have taken from foreign countries, you're talking about all the loans that you have given to the foreign country, to the other countries, you're talking about all the aids that you have received from abroad, you're talking about all the investments that you have received from abroad, all the investments that you have made in other countries. So it's basically, it just looks like your accounts, the your simple accounts that you have. So where in your accounts, in your balance sheet, in your trial balance, in your P&L account, you are basically recording the transactions of a company. Here you are recording the international transactions of a country. So that is what the difference is, and it has got different parts to it. So if we are talking about the definition of balance of payments, so according to Bo Sudiston, the balance of payment is merely a way of listing receipts and payments in international transactions for a country. So that is what balance of payment is. It's just, you are just telling that what your receipts are, what your payments are regarding the international transactions. That's the key here. Professor Kindleberger, he says that it's a systematic record of all economic transactions of a country with the rest of the world in a given period of time. So here you are again, he's saying the same thing, that it's the economic transactions with the rest of the world. So again, the external transactions we are talking about. So why do you have a balance of payments account, and why is it required? So it's basically it's bookkeeping, it's a record keeping of all your transactions, so that your authorities, especially your monetary authorities, uh, they know what the transactions have been. It also helps the banks, the banks, the firms, the individuals who are engaged in international trade, so as to take their decisions. So they look at the balance of payment positions of the countries, and they come to know that, okay, this is what is required to be done. So if we are talking about the definitions, if we want to define, or if we want to express the definitions, or understand the definitions, we say that it's obvious that literally million of transactions of the residents of a nation with the rest of the world cannot appear individually in the balance of payments. So what you are basically doing is you're consolidating them. So you've got a summary statement where you, all the transactions that have been taken place, like in every country there are millions of exporters, like a country of our size. If I'm talking about Vasant's country, then in Vasant's country there might be thousands of exporters there. So in my country, because it's a huge country, so we have got millions of exporters. Now, of course, you cannot have million transactions. You cannot have million accounts down there. So what you do is you make a summary statement of that, and only the net balance comes in there. And it includes some transaction in which residents of foreign nations are not directly involved. So if a country's central bank is selling a part of the foreign currency, so that will be there, but there the people are not engaged in it. So all the transactions that are taking place, all the international transactions that are taking place, there are debit transactions, and then there are credit transactions, just like your books of accounts. So if you're familiar with the bookkeeping method, then you know that what a debit and what a credit is. So credit transactions are that which involve the receipt of the payments, because that is what credit means. And debit is, of course, that involve payments to foreigners. Now, when we talk about international transactions, we are talking about exchange of a good, service, or asset. So between the residents of one nation and the residents of other nations. And you also include gifts here. So the gifts are also a part of your the transfer payments, gifts. They are also part of BOP. Uh, Now, yeah, this if you have read income tax, then in income tax there is there is this definition of residence of a country, like in not only in India, every country you have these definitions. There is a definition of who are the residents of the country. So you from there you take it here and you then apply it here. So diplomats, military personnel, tourists, and workers who temporarily migrate to are residents of the nation in which they hold citizenship. So you may come to my country as a tourist, may come as a student, you may come for some diplomatic work, you can come as a employee of the organization, but you won't become a resident of my country. You will be the resident of the country of whose citizenship you have, the passport of which country you are carrying. So we say that similarly, a corporation is a resident of the nation in which it is incorporated, but its foreign branches and subsidiaries are not. So foreign branches and subsidiaries belong to that country where it is. So a worker may start by emigrating temporarily and then decide to remain abroad permanently, which happens. International Monetary Fund and World Bank both are in their head offices are in US, but of course they are not US agencies. But are they? Okay. So what are the principles of balance of payments? Balance of payments. So the principles are that export of goods and services, unilateral transfers from foreigners, and capital and financial inflows are credits. So anything which is coming to your country in the form of export payment, in the form of transfers, in the form of capital inflows, those are all credits. Now, what are debits? The ones which are going out. So it's the imports which are going out. It's the unilateral transfer to the foreigners, the capital and financial outflows. So these are all the debits. So these will obviously come as negatives, and all the credits will come as positives. Each transaction is recorded twice. Now, if how many of you have studied accountancy? Anybody who has studied accountancy here? Anybody who has studied accountancy? There was somebody who was saying that he's an accountant.
Rita Banda is writing that she has read, I think.
She just okay, Smriti. Thank you. You are here. There was a question from
Yes,
the. I just texted you.
as per your message, I have written my reply in the message box.
Okay, Acha, you have already replied to them. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, as you're studying Indian economics, please write on Indian economics, then you can include. Okay, right. So, Mosumba, I hope your question gets answered here. Chipulmutsu, your question gets answered.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I've got the response.
Yeah, so you have to write it from the Indian perspective, and of course, you can add on your country's examples and perspective on it, right? Fine.
Right, noted.
Noted. Thank you so much, Smriti. I don't know whether she is here or not.
Yes, I'm here, but I think you are much better. You can answer it in a better way because you're teaching yourself here. I saw your sessions on Indian economics. So, as it is in our syllabus, it's in India. It's based on Indian economics. So
Yes.
you need to study Indian economics, and you can definitely connect it with your country also.
Huh. That is what I said, that if it is because they might not be knowing a lot about the Indian economy, but it's a great chance for you to read about the Indian economy and to know the Indian economy much better, because it's one of the most emerging economies in the world, and most of the African nations have got very good relations with India. Like we have got very good trade relations with African countries. So like we look forward to knowing about your countries. I suppose it's a good chance for you people to read about our country, right? So anybody who has anybody who has studied accountancy? No. Okay.
Actually, they are studying accountancy. There is a paper as well.
Acha. Okay. Right. So you know about bookkeeping, the double entry system.
Credit and debit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's debit and credit, and it's also the contra entries. That means every
Okay.
every debit has to have a credit, and every credit has to have a debit. So that is what in accountancy they teach you, the double entry bookkeeping system, so that at the end everything gets balanced out. Right. Okay. I suppose it's the office time for them. So most of them are in their offices working, and they've put on their classes as well. So, yeah, less interaction. Mm, so, right.
Mod.
Yeah. So,
I think this is your last session today, Tanima?
yes,
Or
yes.
you will continue it tomorrow also?
Today, mine is last.
Okay. Okay.
Tomorrow, Alpa has got, I suppose, as per the schedule I was looking at,
It's
Alpa
on
has got.
it's on 19th.
Acha, it's on 19th. Okay. Alpa has got the last session.
Okay. Thanks in advance.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great session. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because it's so nice to speak to international students and to learn so much about their economy and how things are working at their end, and to have such fruitful discussions with these people. Uh,
So you can continue now, and
yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Right. So we are talking about the balance of payments. So it's a double entry bookkeeping. So every record that is there in the in balance of payments, whichever you are making, there always has to be a double entry. That means if there is a debit entry, there has to be a credit entry. If there is a credit entry, there has to be a debit entry. Because as per the rules of accountancy, when you people are making your journal entries, you might be learning about the journal entries and bookkeeping. So you do all those things. So basically, it's to keep your accounts balanced. So now you have got a current account in, and there you've got a current account, and then you've got a capital account. So what are the things which are there in the current account? So it has all the sales and the purchases of currently produced goods and services, investment incomes, unilateral transfers, and provides a link between the nation's international transactions and its national income. And then you've got the capital account. So capital account, basically in the current account, we talk about balance of trade. In the current account, it is known as BOT, or the balance of trade, which is a part of balance of payments, and it is about both the visible and the invisible trade that happens. Visible means basically the tangibles, your goods, and the intangibles or the invisibles are the services. So the trade in goods and services, or your exports and imports, that is a part of the balance of trade things. And then of course the unilateral transfers comes in here. So that's the current account, that's balance of trade. And then comes your capital account. The capital account has what? The capital account has got debt, it has got financial assets, it has got debt forgiveness. So all those things that comes under your capital account. So then you have got, like, at the end you have got official reserve account, which is basically the it's the autonomous transactions are there. So we say that all transactions in the current capital and financial accounts other than official reserve accounts are called autonomous transactions. So the official reserve account is basically a balancing thing, because obviously your debit and credit are not matched. Like if you, for a country, your all your receipts and payments will never match. Either you'll have more of payments and less of receipts, or you'll have more of receipts and less of payments. So like in India's case, we have a deficit of balance payment position. Most of the countries have got deficit balance of payment position. That means you are giving out more than you are receiving. Now but because it's a account, and at the end of the year it has to be balanced. So for that we have got the official reserve account. So basically the official reserve account is the one which balances your balance of payment accounts. So we say that if the net private capital inflows to the nations are not sufficient to cover the deficit of the nation's current and capital accounts, The nation is said to have a deficit in its BOP, which is equal to the difference, which needs to be covered by a net credit balance on official reserve transactions. So that is what we were talking about, the official reserve assets. So this is what we are talking. So this basically covers it up from the government side, from the monetary authority side, and they cover it up. And we are talking about the balance on official reserve transactions. It's called the official settlements balance, or simply the BOP, and the account in which official reserve transactions are entered is called the official reserve account. That is how it works. So this is balance of payments of India. And in the current account, we have got merchandise, which is your goods. Then we have got the invisibles, which comprises of services, which is A. Then you have got transfers, which is B. So you have got, and the C is income. I forgot to color C in blue. So we have, like, this is again, so the you add your services, your transfers, and your income, and the total of this is your invisibles. And of course, merchandise is your first one. And current account is a combination of, or it's a sum of merchandise and invisibles. Then you've got the capital account. So in the capital account, first comes your foreign investments. When we are talking about foreign investments, we are talking about FDI and FII. FDI is foreign direct investments, and then you have got the foreign institutional investments. Then comes the second part of the capital account is the loans. So loans is external assistance. If you now look here, you have it by India to India. That means you're taking the net external assistance. Similarly, commercial borrowings by India to India, again, the net you are talking about. And then you're talking about the short term to India, which is the supplier's credit, which is greater than 180 days, and up to 180 days you are having. Then the third part of the capital account is the banking capital. So the commercial banks, the assets, the liabilities, then you have got rupee debt service. That's the fourth item. And then you've got other capital. So you have got 5 items, which you started off from with foreign investment, then came your loans, then your banking capital, and then your rupee and debt service, which makes your capital account. So this is about the balance of payment position, and it tells you about the foreign exchange position and the terms of trade which are there in the country. So these are the 2 things that we have covered so far today. We covered the foreign institutions, and then we covered the balance of payment position. That is what we have done so far. Any questions or any doubts so far? Anything that you want to ask? Anything that you would want to ask at this point? Any questions?
Sorry, I didn't get you much on from India to India. You saying you finance everything yourself within India, not from other countries to India, from India by India to,
No,
from India.
no. It's not. No. Let me get back. It is. If I'm talking here, let me just make it big. What we are trying to tell you here is that commercial borrowings by India, that means how much you are borrowing, and how much India is giving. Like by India means how much is India lending to other countries, and when we say to India means how much are we borrowing. Similarly, external assistance by India, that means how much of assistance has India given to other countries, and then how much external assistance India has received. So that is to India. So that is by India and to India. We do not do everything on our own, Farida. We do take a lot of loans and things from other countries as well. We are taking a lot of assistance from other countries, and we are, of course, we are providing assistance to other countries, but we are taking a lot of assistance from them as well. So I suppose that answers your question.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Right. Yeah, anything else? Okay, so that means you are looking at my slides and you are going, like you are listening to me. Thank you. I thought everybody is doing their own. Right. Anything else that needs clarity from my side on these things? Okay, let me then speak to you very, very quickly, as quickly as I can, on India's foreign trade policy that we have now. If I would just this slides are just for mm, okay, so I'm just keeping it here, and let me just talk to you a bit about our foreign trade policy. Now, yesterday I was talking to you that how when we became independent, we took this mixed economic policy, and we were very much enamored by Russia, and so we followed a lot of their policies there. And our prime minister, our first prime minister, was a visionary, Mr. Nehru, and he had a very huge fan following amongst the world leaders, especially all the countries which had recently become free or were getting independence. And so he had that. He became the pioneer of NAM, the non-aligned movement, and the Commonwealth. He established that. So he was somebody who wanted India to grow, wanted India to become an industrial hub. And so he had that vision for India. He passed away way, way quickly for us to take full advantage of his vision. But now, when we became independent, we, of course, we needed a lot of external assistance. We got a lot of external assistance. We were trading, we needed trade, but of course we were not in a position to go for free trade, in the sense that we could not have an economy which was open for everybody to come in. Secondly, before independence, when the like we by the end of the Second World War, we knew that uh, we were very close to getting independence, because the British were no longer in a position to sustain their colonies. So we knew that it was just a matter of time before we became independent. So at that time, when preparations were going on of how to handle the country when it became free, we had something called the Bombay Plan. Now, the Bombay Plan was made by the leading industrialists of that time, and in that plan, they wrote that they would want the government to support the industries, and to have a protective environment where they would not be allowed, or like there won't be any indiscriminate competition with the established businesses of the world. They would be given a chance, they would be given an environment where they could prosper, they could grow, and then the doors of the economy would be opened up for competition. And that is something which the government followed. A lot of people today criticize Mr. Nehru's vision, and they say that we should have opened up our economy, and we should not have gone for a protective trade policy. But as I always say, hindsight is the best sight. Uh, at that time, if we would have opened our economy, we would not have become self-reliant as we are today. We are where we are because of the democratic setup that we had, and the vision that we had at that point of time. So we went with a protective trade policy. That means we went with something called import substitution. So it was more of an inward looking policy, where we were talking about restrictions on on movements of goods and services. We were talking about less of imports. We were talking about making our own things, especially in the consumption market. and to save a lot, because we did not have the money to import, basically, very frankly, we did not have the money to import. So again, we had to look for policies where we could do with our own thing. So we took a bit of technology from other countries, we imported that, and we did a lot of things on our own. So this is basically like, if you read this, if I may read this for you, it says the National Planning Committee at that time, it wrote that in the context of the modern world, no country can be politically and economically independent, even within the framework of international interdependence, unless it is highly industrialized and has developed its power resources to the utmost. Nor can it achieve or maintain high standards of living and liquidate poverty without the aid of modern technology in almost every sphere of life. An industrially backward country will continually upset the world equilibrium and encourage the aggressive tendencies of more developed countries. Even if it retains its political independence, this will be nominal only, and economic control will tend to pass to others. So the National Planning Committee, this is well chronicled, that they wanted India to become independent, not only in nominal terms, but in terms of economic control as well. And that's the reason that we adopted this policy, and we continued with this policy for a pretty long period of time. So we went with it, and so we had this import substitution, and we had tariff and non-tariff controls. We put in a lot of barriers to that, and EXIM policy, which we had. EXIM stands for export import policy. So the export import policy that we had was from 1950-51 to 1990-91. And of course, after 1991, there has been immense liberalization there, and there has been a 180 degrees change. But yeah, of course, one of the reasons that our industries couldn't progress is also the same policy, because this policy, because there was always this argument of nascent industries and protecting the nascent industries, which was detrimental for the development of the industrial sector, because they took advantage of all the subsidies that the government was giving, all the support that the government was giving, and they were not scaling up their production, because they knew that the moment they scaled up the production, the government would stop supporting them, and they would be supporting the more new industries. So yeah, so it has been a double-edged sword for us. And I'll stop my class here. I'll stop speaking, and I'll stop. Some last remarks, some last questions from you people are most welcome, so that we can wind up the class. If I can just have some last comments from you people. Anything you would want to add or comment on, or just a general observation? Nothing?
I just wanted to thank you, ma'am, for your counseling sessions for both the papers.
Bless you.
It's been really a pleasure knowing you, and hopefully our journey doesn't end here. We will hopefully meet in future.
I'm there on LinkedIn. I just got two people from this class who joined me on LinkedIn. So you are most welcome, more than welcome to join me on LinkedIn, and we can always be in touch, because I always love to hear from my students. And yep, so it's always there. So you can always join me there, and we can have our own family there. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, Grace, thank you so much. A big shout out to, big shout out to all of you for being such supporting people, and like while you were working, you people were commenting here as well, and taking part. I know it's very difficult to be working and doing these things. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you, for that support and that eagerness of sharing your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, Masumba, thank you.
Sessions, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. All your appreciations are appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Grace, you raised your hand. You want to say something?
No, I think I have. The
Okay.
son said it, put it so well. We really have
Right.
appreciated and benefited.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, and a special thanks to Farida, and because she has been helping me with making all of you enter. So thank you so much, Farida. God bless you for helping me. And let me stop the session. Let me stop the recording and let me stop the session. Bye bye. Take care. Good reading. And